Today, we're excited to welcome Mike Michelini to the podcast. Now, he's a trailblazer in e-commerce and Web3 spaces and the visionary behind the Cross-Border Summit. Mike's work in developing a blockchain-based Amazon is revolutionizing how e-commerce operates, pushing the boundaries beyond traditional platforms.
Yeah, in this discussion, Mike really talks to us about the future of e-commerce and what we should be aware of for years to come in e-commerce. And it's a fascinating discussion. He was actually at one of his summits that he organises at the time of recording, which shows that he really is on the front line and the cutting edge of these discussions. So for anyone curious about Web3, maybe you've never heard of it before, but you want to know about where the future of e-commerce is going and how that can benefit specifically Shopify dropshippers, which is what we're doing and why we're so fascinated, then this discussion is a goldmine.
Definitely is, yeah. Expect to leave this episode after you've listened to it equipped with some cutting-edge insights that could redefine how you approach e-commerce in the future. We're going to explore the foundational aspects of blockchain, and we'll uncover why now is an exciting time for entrepreneurs to start or pivot their business strategies towards these emerging technologies. So let's dive in and uncover the future of e-commerce with Mike. Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked podcast. I'm Lewis Smith, the founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Erdley. Now, when we're not recording the podcast episodes, we're running our own e-commerce businesses and helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. Keen to build your own 6 or even 7-figure business? My book, The Home Turf Advantage, is your blueprint for launching a profitable online store. Grab your copy at htabook.com today and let's get you started. Now sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Mike Michelini, who is an e-commerce seller, a Web3 marketer, and the organiser of the Cross-Border Summit. So we'll be talking today about the future of e-commerce and dropshipping. So Mike, it's fantastic to have you with us today to share your expertise. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really a pleasure. It's really nice. I like your setup here too. It's fun. Thanks, James.
Awesome. No problem at all. So it's great to see that you're out and about at the moment. I know that you're actually at an event. So what is the event that you are at right now?
So it's the Global from Asia e-commerce meetup here in Shenzhen, China, in the south near Hong Kong. It's a meetup for e-commerce, a lot of Amazon sellers, private label sellers, but also some drop shippers to network and have some drinks and make some connections.
Amazing. Great to get connections with other e-commerce sellers. And also, I know that we spoke just before we hit record that you are based over that part of the world now in Thailand and China. So do you find that over in that part of the world, specifically Thailand, I know Chiang Mai, is there a bit of a hub of e-commerce sellers over there that you can network with?
Yeah, for sure. I've been in Asia since 2007 and 12 years in China and about 5 now in Thailand. Thailand is a great place for digital nomads and e-commerce sellers, online business owners, fast internet, good, really low cost of living, good lifestyle, good environment, good people. So yeah, it's definitely a place I recommend to at least check out.
Just saying, I can see why it's popular for e-commerce sellers. Obviously, the cost of living is one thing. But today I'm keen to talk to you about the future of selling online and e-commerce, and specifically we'll be talking about Web3. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about your journey with e-commerce and how that has led you up to this position and what you're doing today.
Sure. So there's still some skeptics about blockchain. Blockchain is still a very early technology. There's some people, still think of it as scams and cheaters. But I feel like it was like the early days of the gold rush and before our times and early technologies, even the dot-com bubble and boom. So blockchain is still a really early stage technology, but I've actually always been studying it even since the early days of Bitcoin for payments, cross-border payments. And more recently, I love the NFT technology and the technology of using not not just artwork and JPEGs, but actually technology for exclusive access and membership to your community, to your buyers, right? So if people have studied NFT technology would understand you can get access to special discords and special, access to specific products. And as an e-commerce seller, I've been selling for 20 years. I see that must be used for e-commerce. So for the last couple of years now, we've been really working hard to prepare a new way for e-commerce sellers to use blockchain technology to buy and sell products natively on chain.
Awesome. We've got a lot to be excited about in the future. So a lot of people listening and watching this episode today will be e-commerce sellers or soon to be aspiring e-commerce sellers. And they'll be keen to see where e-commerce is going in the future. But we'll start by defining some of these terms. It's sort of the first time that we've really delved into these topics on the podcast. So could you start off by letting us know a little bit definition-wise of like blockchain and then how that is emerging in Web3?
Okay, sure. So blockchain is it's basically like a public database or like an Excel spreadsheet that's public. So your, the first one of bigger use cases people think of is Bitcoin for money. So the money is on the blockchain and people can see what user is a wallet to another user and how much and on the block height or the time or the date stamp. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but basically that's it. That's really the core. And people are saying, why would I want something public on a blockchain, right? So most of us are used to private databases for e-commerce sellers. Private data of your Amazon or your Shopify or your Facebook is all private. So when it's private and it's not a blockchain, but it's a database, centralized database, only that company and you can see the transactions. So Amazon, Shopify, Facebook, only they can see what's happening. So they can change things in the blockchain. They could basically reverse a transaction, change something that they're doing. So when it's on a blockchain, it can't be reversed. It's public. Everybody has a copy all over the internet, all over the world. And that is what makes it powerful. So I'm not sure if I'm being clear or not. I know it's still new, but essentially by being public on a blockchain other than in a private database, it can be trustless. So you don't need to trust somebody else with your data because your data is public. And not all your data, but certain parts of your transactions are public that will then not need you to trust Facebook or Amazon or Shopify to host your transactions. And anybody can do business on the blockchain publicly.
That's a brilliant explanation. Yeah, that really helps because it is a complex subject, but no, that really helps understanding that it's a decentralized data storage element is sort of how I see it. And it means that it isn't open then to needing to trust others where it's behind a certain private barrier. You know, the data that we're collecting or the vehicle that we're using to transact through is all public. So therefore, you have a public database that we can all look into. So let me know, Mike, if my understanding there is correct. And let us know a little bit more about how having a blockchain would be beneficial to e-commerce sellers.
Sure. I don't want to put you on a spot, James, but I mean, I've had a few of my times where Amazon's questions, I'm more heavy on Amazon, but I also, I do drop shipping and e-commerce as well. But they sometimes will freeze my account, will sometimes say a transaction is not valid, a review is not valid. They'll reverse reviews, or they will freeze my account, or they'll ask for verification on certain transactions or products. You have no control of your data. You have no control of you have no ownership. Your user account, the customer data, the product data, your photos is that platform's. If you as a listener believe that's a problem and you want a solution, then the blockchain is a potential solution. And the way it works is it's not owned by anyone. It means it's owned by the community. There's something called a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, and that is owned by the community, the holders of the blockchain. So you can vote as a user and you have a say. So if you are banned on this platform, first of all, your data would not be censored. You would maybe not be able to transact on certain marketplaces that we're building. But you could also go to the DAO or the decentralized autonomous organization and raise a case, just like you open a case with Amazon or open a case with Shopify or open a case with eBay. But this would be on the blockchain to the members of the DAO, which are the owners of the blockchain, and you would have your case reviewed by the community. So this is a fundamental change. And you would own your money, you would own your data. You would simply be removed from the marketplace in the protocol of the blockchain, because there's different levels. There's application layer and there's the blockchain or protocol layer. So your data would still be yours, but maybe that marketplace, the application layer might ban you, because you can still get banned. You can't do anything. We're not going to let you sell illegal products and those items.
It's fascinating because it shows that there is an alternative where it's like a democratic system. So the data that you have that or you give, or your customers' data, and also all of the platforms that we use. So the platforms that we use most commonly would be Shopify in the dropshipping that we do, but also Google Ads is a big platform that we work with, and PayPal, obviously Shopify payments. These are all examples, aren't they, of platforms that we're reliant on. And so I'm keen to see how this will pan out in the future, if we can get a bit of an idea of where the world is going. Do you see Web3 and the use of blockchains and decentralized systems being inevitable? Or is there a case of having to really push for this to happen?
I think it's inevitable, but I mean, we can't be complacent and just wait for it to happen. That's why I'm really trying hard to push it. So we need to build community-owned and public blockchains that are global and interconnected, not basically these government blockchains that are going to be governments and borders. They're going to be like within a border. So that's the fear.
Inevitably, in terms of the software that's coming and the technology that's being built, because it's the best solution for the market. So ultimately that would be the winner. But it's whether it is different types of that technology and making sure that it's a public one that becomes the winner, instead of a private blockchain where we still then have the same issues with not being able to control our own business in a way, or our own data and the transactions that we do as well. And just to touch on something else that I think is fundamental as well in terms of like where things are going, which I want to tie into as well, is the difference from Web 2, which is the world we're still in now, to going into Web 3. So could you sort of talk to us about the main differences between what the current internet is, the Web 2 that we use, and what Web 3 is coming on the horizon?
Sure. So there's a few different parts of, Web 2 or e-commerce or social media or the internet. So maybe even back to Web 1. Web 1, I liked it. It was maybe AOL, or it was more website based. But basically, the quick and easy way is Web 1 was read, Web 2 is write, Web 3 is own. So that's the core difference. When the first internet came out, it was hard for users to use social media. There was no social media. There was only like websites. So that means the only people that could write were the websites, the owners of the websites, and people could just read the website. Web 2 came, Facebook, MySpace, other platforms that was able to let the users be able to write, to be able to contribute, to post photos, to sell on platforms. And that's Web 2. That's Facebook, that's Amazon, that's Google, that's all YouTube. But you don't own it. You don't own anything. So Web 3 is read, write, own. So of course you can read stuff on Web 3, you can write stuff, but you own stuff. You own your content, you own your identity. It's not just about the money part, it's about your your photos. You work hard to take the photographs, to write the descriptions of your products. You work hard to get your users and your community and your followers and your customers, and that's yours. That follows you on the blockchain. So if you move to another marketplace, because we're basically building up an ecosystem. So it'll be marketplaces, multiple marketplaces and platforms for people to buy and sell products. I'm thinking 5-10 years in the future here, it's just a lot to do. But that's the core differences of Web 1, 2, 3. Read, write, own.
Awesome. That's really helpful to have that simple read, write, own and the definitions of it, all the Web 1 and 2 and 3. So, I appreciate we're sort of looking in the future now and predicting sort of 5-10 years in advance. But I mean, from what you're saying, it's exciting to know that we can own more of our businesses, and certainly not being so reliant on platforms with e-commerce, because we are reliant on the tools that we use and the accounts that we've got to continue generating the income that we are from our businesses. So I'm optimistic and hopeful that it does turn out in that way, and it's positive to make sure that we own more of our business. In the context of e-commerce and the type of businesses that we run, I'm keen to see how you sort of picture it. So I'll lay out what the majority of our audience have or are building. So we have Shopify dropshipping websites. We'll use Google Ads primarily to get customers that are searching for our products onto our website. And from there, we'll get customers that will place orders, that will have their data, and we'll get customers leave their email addresses. We get sign-up forms with Klaviyo in our Shopify stores. And that's what we've got. That sort of tech stack is as you like, is Google Ads, Shopify, PayPal payments, as well as Shopify. And then the email addresses that we collect. So we have creating our sort of our own audience or email list, if you like. Do you see that all still being within Shopify in the next 5-10 years and within Google Ads, or is that going to change fundamentally?
So email is actually probably talk about this on to your audience, but email is one of the best assets you can build, because email is something you can kind of own, as people should be aware of. Email is, of course, a lot of people use Gmail now, right? So many people use Google Mail, but you don't have to use Google Mail, right? You can use any mail platform. And if you get a customer's email, that's the most valuable thing. I think for now, email lists is the most valuable thing. And you can port that to different platforms. You can sell to, you can tell your subscribers to buy from you on different places, so you can change. So email is actually almost the original Web 1, and it's actually somewhat of a protocol. If you notice, when you set up your email servers on your maybe Outlook or on your phone, it's like POPIMAP. If you know what those stand for, it's internet mail protocols. Those are on protocols, which are similar to blockchains. Protocols, similar idea of a blockchain. So email is one of the best assets you can have as a business owner, and I'll always recommend any business owner to do their best to build quality email lists, database, because I think that will definitely be valuable for the foreseeable future. But that's why I don't feel as comfortable with followers on Facebook or followers on Twitter or other platforms, because it's hard to move those. They're not really yours. And if that platform doesn't get to be as popular anymore, then it's kind of dead. You can try to tell them to follow you on another platform, but it's really hard to move that data over somewhere else.
I see. Yeah. It's a reliance on the ad platforms then at this time.
Yeah. So you're basically relying on those platforms. So what I usually tell people is the number one is brand, building a brand. I tell dropshippers every day, yeah, I started dropshipping. I dropship, but you want to build your own brand long term, because I think brands will last the test of time. Brands, you can start dropshipping other people's brands or no branded products, but I would really recommend, once you find your niche that's working and you get your audience, you start to get your own private label brand, and that will be able to be brought any platform, eBay, Amazon, Kickstarter, Web3, whatever I'm making, whatever somebody else makes. I think brand is the most valuable asset. It'll always have value.
Yeah, and brand, it has that stickability. It stays around, or it stays in people's minds. So if you have to change platform, if you've got a brand that stays the test of time, then your customers can follow you then onto whichever platform or however you evolve in the future. So spending some time getting clear on your audience and what your brand stands for is key, is crucial, and which I do want to touch on later. But for now, Mike, tell us a little bit more about what you're actually working on. I know you're pioneering a blockchain model for e-commerce, so talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the name is LoadPipe, like LOAD and then pipe, PIPE. And it's on the .com. We also have it in some various Web3 naming solutions too. But essentially, that's the data layer for justice. We kind of call it the justice layer, where the disputes happen about, like we talked about earlier, if you have an issue about your product or you're delisted. So it'll be very minimal, where you can have your data hosted and ported across different marketplaces on the protocol. And then the second we're building is the first marketplace, which would maybe be similar to like an Amazon or eBay, called Hamza, HAMZA, bit.biz. And Hamza is in testnet right now. And essentially, it's a place for you to buy and sell with crypto as a buyer and to sell as a seller. So your audience in the future, hopefully by later this year, will have it ready for sellers to list products. But you would list, and our early adopters would be crypto buyers. So we have a database and a community of buyers that want to buy with crypto. But we believe long-term, mainstream users would also want to join this platform to buy, because they'll actually own their data and they'll be rewarded. There'll be lots of different rewards for being a customer on this platform. So this is some of the ways that we are building right now, but we also need a lot more to, basically, you said Google AdWords, all these tools need to be built. All these tools need to be built onto this new ecosystem. And we want to build this whole new way of people doing e-commerce. It's a massive, massive thing. We've made a couple of different alliances lately, and we have more people building, but I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see the scale of the project, looking to see into the future, really to get your head down and start creating that. I mean, a question that came up for me when you were mentioning it is, if we're e-commerce seller right now with our Shopify store, obviously we're waiting for Hamza to be created. But if we decide that we want to be able for people to purchase our products with cryptocurrencies in the future, or even now, is the only way right now for us to accept cryptocurrency for our products that we're selling? Is the only way to move on to a new platform, or is there any way to accept crypto within Shopify, or is it something that we need to look at new solutions for?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I think there are ways to receive crypto on Shopify and other shopping carts right now. So definitely people could start to do that right now. I'm not familiar with the current plugins, but one popular one I know is BitPay. So definitely people can take that action right now and accept crypto. But I think one reason people are hesitant to use crypto to buy, and that's what we're trying to solve, is the immutability of it. You cannot refund people. Of course you can refund, but there's no mediation. So people don't trust using it, because if I buy from this dropshipper on a Shopify store, there's no dispute mechanism to protect the buyer in crypto now. So the core difference that we're doing now is having this dispute and justice system in our ecosystem. So I just want to be clear, the difference of that. But yeah, definitely people should accept crypto now. I mean, accept Bitcoin, accept major cryptocurrencies. I would strongly recommend it. I think there's more and more people in the world that are having crypto and wanting to use it to purchase products, if that makes sense. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see the project that you've got ahead of you, but it's exciting to be really at the forefront of this for e-commerce. And yeah, great that you've joined us today from over in China at one of these summits where you push this across to people. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the summit that you've got, Mike. And we'll just wrap up this podcast episode. You mentioned LoadPipe and Hamza. So just to finish up, if people want to learn more from you and perhaps want to find out about the tools that you are building, where would you recommend that they go?
It's a great question. If they're really interested in this early Web3, it's loadpipe.com, LOADPIPE.com. And that's probably the best place.
Best place to start. Amazing. Thank you, Mike, for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, James. Really a pleasure.
Wow, Lewis, I really enjoyed that conversation with Mike there. Some really in-depth knowledge that he has on these subjects, and something that I think is clear to everyone listening why it's so important to understand right now and to have a feel and a grasp on what's coming. And I think that can have a transformative effect on people listening today.
Definitely, yeah. Mike's insights into blockchain's role in e-commerce was amazing. It doesn't just broaden our understanding of it, but it also actually highlights actionable ways that Shopify store owners can leverage this new technology. So yeah, I was fascinated. I learned a lot, and it's definitely about staying ahead of the curve. I think that making sure we are listening to conversations like the one with Mike today helps us remain prepared for that shift towards the future, which sounds like it's going to be a more decentralized, transparent business model.
Certainly sounds the way, and by keeping our finger on the pulse, we can really keep an eye on that and be perfectly positioned for whichever way the market goes. So I really found that podcast enlightening, but there is more because Mike has also recorded a separate session with us, which we are going to be releasing into our members area, which I'm excited to do very soon.
Yeah, the members only training was amazing, so looking forward to releasing that soon as well. Now, to ensure you're fully equipped to take advantage of these insights, pair what you've learned today with the systematic approach detailed in my book at htabook.com. It's about combining innovative solutions like Mike's with solid business strategies to really maximize your success. So head over to htabook.com to get started on transforming your e-commerce venture today.
Enjoying the podcast? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a review, and we might just feature it on an upcoming episode. Also, for detailed show notes and resources, head to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast.
If you found value from any episode of this podcast, please take just 10 seconds to leave us a quick 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. It helps us more than you could imagine, and who knows, you might just hear your comments on the show. Thanks for being part of our community. Your support helps us keep delivering a new episode every week.
Now it's time to answer a question that we've had in from a listener of the podcast. And remember, if you want your question answered on a podcast episode, all you need to do is comment beneath the YouTube video version of an episode. So that's exactly what Sona has done. So thank you, Sona, for your question. She has asked, I enjoy all of your videos and it's what I'd love to do. I'm currently reading your book, Lewis, and following the video as and when I can. Silly question, but first steps are registering my company and creating my Shopify store. But how can I if I still don't know what I'm planning on selling? Therefore, should I focus on finding my niche first, as it's the most important part, and then register my company?
So, Sona, yeah, to directly answer your question, yes, focus on establishing your business entity first. And you can set up your Shopify store. Remember, by doing that, you don't need to have picked your niche already. You can just set it up, experiment, have a look around, and later on you can do your niche research and you'll know exactly how it can all fit together. So it prepares you legally and financially, having your business set up and your bank account set up as a company, but it also gives you that mental clarity to fully focus on finding your niche once you've got all those foundations in place, and you can then overlay the other criteria, like, are you passionate about it? Does it have potential, without worrying about all of the admin distractions and having to come back and do all of that stuff later. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Sona, and thanks, Lewis, as well. It's important that we take the steps in that order because each step leads on to the next, so you're more prepared as you move through the process. So it's also time to highlight a recent comment that we've had beneath a podcast episode. So a big thank you to DevB8596 for the YouTube comment. And they've said that starting is the hardest thing to do. Procrastinating, thinking the worst will happen, nobody knows until they have taken the leap. Learning from mistakes makes one stronger. So thank you for your comment. She commented that beneath an episode where we were discussing the importance of starting despite that feeling of uncertainty. And it's clear that Dev really understands that concept.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comment, Dev. You definitely brought up a great point, and I felt that it was important for us to share it on today's podcast. So thanks for sharing. Now, as we wrap up today, I have a question for you. who do you know that could benefit from hearing this? Grab your phone, click share, and send them a link to this episode on WhatsApp with a quick message like, I thought you might enjoy this. That small gesture could be the thing that changes their life for the better.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you're walking away with insights and inspiration.
To kickstart your e-commerce journey, grab a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, at htabook.com. It's a distilled guide based on real experience to help you build your e-commerce venture.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more strategies and success stories. And if you like what you heard, a 5-star review would mean the world to us, and you might just get a shout out on an upcoming episode.
And finally, thank you for deciding to spend your time with us today. We can't wait to bring you more insights on the next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.